Water management is on the minds of so many. They recognize the role that water security plays in protecting their future. Welcome to my city, Memphis, Tennessee. I moved here 20 years ago and have made it my home. Memphis is located in the southern United States with a population of nearly 650,000 and home to 3 Fortune 500 companies. Rich for its culture of blues music on iconic Beale Street, Graceland, home of Elvis Presley. We're on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. It spans a mile wide and is one of the most powerful natural systems in the world and has been a vital giver to economic and civic life. Its watershed covers almost 40% of the United States, and it stretches from Canada to the Gulf Coast. We have to maintain the vital connection to our river, ensuring water security and becoming a more resilient city.
What do we want to be in the 3rd century of Memphis? How do we envision this city as we grow and become a better, more equitable, financially secure city? We joined the Global Covenant of Mayors to really address sustainability issues across the country. Cities all face the same challenges, and if together we try to attack those challenges, it's better for the whole world. Climate change is real. We know some of the dire consequences are coming in the future. So we have to take action now. We have to play our role at City Hall.
The city of Memphis has a lot of competing issues. Here people are struggling with poverty, they're struggling with crime and safety. Oftentimes, if that's your everyday life, you may not have the capacity to think about environmental issues or how can we affect and reduce climate change. But we know that we can tackle a lot of those things at once.
You know, Memphis was the first place that I kind of fell in love with. Spending afternoons and weekends here along the river was always something I loved doing. One of the things that cities like ours have to be mindful of is the impact of a changing climate and how, from a river flooding point of view, that affects not only the magnitude but also the frequency that we may experience these types of events. Our infrastructure just isn't equipped to move that rainwater out of the communities.
In 2010, we had a 1,000-year flood event. It was caused by a localized stalled frontal boundary in the north part of the city around the naval base when I was the commander. 14 inches of rain fell in that area and quickly overtopped the levees very unexpectedly and put the base under 5 to 6 feet of water. The floodwaters came at 6 or 7 in the morning. People were sleeping in their beds. It was a very dire situation for 5 hours. We did receive a call from one mother that said, I have 3 children in 2 hands. How do I keep these 3 children above water? You could sense the desperation in her voice. We ended up pulling 350 people from their homes, rescued them by boat, and brought them to safety.
There's typical times of year that we expect flooding, and now it can almost be any time throughout the year based on heavy rains in Ohio, heavy rains in the Midwest, because the Mississippi River is such a large drainage system. It may not rain at all here, like 2011, yet our community was flooded.
The Mississippi River was at one of its highest flood stages in its history, and what essentially happened is water started backflowing along the Wolf, and of course with all the rain that we got, all the backflow from the Mississippi River, the banks just couldn't hold the water and ended up spilling out into neighborhoods all along the stream. Across the country, in sort of the mid part of the 20th century, we thought we could sort of engineer our way out of these risks, and we've got communities in our city that were built around that time period where we put homes in the floodplain. The climate has changed since then, and there are situations where we just need to kind of retreat back from places that we thought we could settle and now know that that poses a long-term risk to those residents.
Water security is an important issue for Memphis. We are very blessed in this region of the country to have one of the largest underground aquifers in the world, really. We get 99% or more of our water from this aquifer, but we have to protect it and pass it on to the next generation.
The city and county have recently begun a series of projects funded by a federal disaster resilience grant. Our greatest efforts right now is focusing on the viability of the riverfront, but also focusing on areas of our county that are most vulnerable to river flooding.
Floodplain management is huge in the Memphis area, and the Wolf River Greenway Trail is one of the main projects that the City of Memphis is working on. We have 6.5 miles of Greenway Trail protected. We have over 300 acres of floodplain land that's been protected. On this site, we have taken down quite a bit of paved surface. That pond over there is naturalizing as a wetland, and also when it floods, this area will see less floodwaters because we built that.
We are Sisters in Motion. We are an African American women's fitness group. You see all kinds of people out here now, but 10 years ago, we were the only ones out here. They've planted trees out here. They've restored the water systems and things that will help the environment. There's all kinds of walking trails, running trails, all around here. We make a lot of friends out here. We just have a great time.
I grew up in Memphis, going off to college, and then coming back, you got to see some positive change in some areas. And in the areas that I grew up in, a little bit of negative change. And so that's led me a lot to where I am now, trying to work to improve communities. We've talked about introducing green infrastructure or bioswale to try to negate some of those issues. Native plants that can help reduce the runoff from stormwater, and thinking about that in a way from a design aesthetic, so providing a beautification amenity for the neighborhood, but also providing an ecological resource for the city.
The public sector and the private sector come together to improve our parks along the river so that people can walk or ride their bike from one park to the other, all along the Mississippi River.
The Mid-South Greenprint really began a lot of these efforts in focusing on green infrastructure throughout our region. Places like the Big River Crossing from Tennessee to Arkansas, just having a project where we dreamed big and allowed the community to see what was possible when we worked together across state lines to make really great connections happen.
The Big River Crossing has been such a success for Memphis. Since the day it opened, we've had so many people out on the bridge. I love that every time I come here, I see people on bicycles, I see people walking. To me, it feels like it's the best view of Memphis.
For the first time today, I biked over the river. It was absolutely beautiful.
The challenges we face in the United States, whether it's poverty or crime or educational achievement or climate change, government can't solve these alone.
I think one of the key contributions that corporations can have towards climate mitigation is really around efficiencies. They can go through and they can look at how they use energy efficiently, how they use water efficiently, where their raw materials come from, are you sourcing renewable resources. Our vision is to be among the most successful, sustainable, and responsible companies in the world. We've been reporting to CDP for the last 15 years, and in that last 15 years, we've had different focus areas, and we feel like we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on being transparent and also getting feedback on some of our goals. Last year was our first year to report our water usage and our water results. And one of the things for us is how do we look at the holistic nature of water? Not just water management on our site, if you think about the four walls of our mills or our box plants, but also the access to it, and then the discharge of it, to take a look at the different impacts that we're having and how we can improve those.
These environmental actions that we're taking are important not only because they're the right thing to do, but they're also to build the quality of life in Memphis so that businesses and people want to live in Memphis. We have a beautiful city, but we also have to take care of long-term environmental issues because we want Memphis in 20, 30 years to be even better than it is now.
When I look at the Mississippi River, I think of power and possibility. The power of the water that goes by here, the possibility of commerce and connecting everywhere from Minnesota all the way to New Orleans to the rest of the world.
My hope is that we're able to get to a point where we better live with water, we better interact with our natural environment, that we can build more compact communities that are more sustainable, that are more walkable, more enjoyable. There's a higher quality of life.
I want to make sure that I go back and I'm able to inspire young kids so when they're growing up, they see the same things that I saw when I grew up, and the places that I cherished, they can cherish as well.
People see us out here and they say, what are you guys doing? Where'd you come from? We tell them, well, can we join? Sure, come on out here, run on, come walk with us. Just put one foot in front of the other and keep going.